Hello, my name is Kaya, and I am sharing my screen with you. Just a second. There we go. So my name is Kaya, and this is my capstone presentation, fostering meaningful experiences for students with moderate to severe disabilities in the general education classroom. So my background's a problem. There is a thing called least restrictive environment. So as stated in section 1412A5A of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, to the maximum extent appropriate, children with disabilities, including children in public and private schools, are educated with children who are not disabled. So, for example, in my case in high school, that's in the general education classroom. So my students go to out classes, or otherwise known as inclusion classes, and they are legally mandated to be placed in those classes. And then also pre-service general education teachers are not receiving training in working with students with disabilities. So they're not receiving training in instructional practices, how to modify assignments or accommodate special needs. This study was carried out at John Hardin High School. Student population 785. There's 54 staff, 39 teachers. We serve grades 9 through 12 and grade 14 for students up to age 21 receiving special education services. We are a Title I school with 48% of students receiving free lunch. The participant in my study included 10 general educators who service students with MSD in their classrooms and participated in a training, as well as 5 more teachers who did not participate in the training. They were targeted in their natural setting in the general education classroom. A lack of training geared towards general educators servicing students with MSD in their inclusion classes is impacting educator confidence in creating that meaningful experience for those students in their classroom. So understanding my problem of practice. So general education teachers or pre-service teachers, so those still in college working to become a teacher, lack knowledge in different instructional practices designed for students with MSD. And there's also a lack of resources provided to general education teachers who service students with MSD. So, like, obviously, as a special educator, I get the support and resources that I need to make sure that my students are getting what they need academically. But I feel like the general education teachers who also have my students in their classroom often are forgotten. And then exclusion practices. I decided to put this or include this in my problem of practice, not because it's an issue that I see at my school, but I do see it in other schools in my district or in all over um, the United States. So yeah, and then a lack of knowledge surrounding the disabilities general educators may encounter in their classroom. So I think there is a slight ignorance to what autism is or what Down syndrome is or what any of these other severe disabilities may entail. And so I think there's just a lack of knowledge and they need to be more informed, especially if they're teaching these students. Um, yes. Okay. So the interventions to address my problem of practice. My first one was 31 essential standards for preparing secondary content teachers. The purpose of this study was to identify CEC standards that would be essential for preparing content area teachers to effectively teach students with disabilities. It surveyed 510 parent teachers and other members of the CEC that have taught or ever taught students with exceptional learning needs in general curriculums. It surveyed special educators about the knowledge, skills, and dispositions they thought that general educators should acquire in order to teach students with disabilities in their inclusion classes. I thought this was cool because it didn't come from administration or the Board of Education. It came from special educators themselves. And so it's their opinion on what they think that general educators, what skills they think that general educators should acquire in order to be able to effectively teach students with disabilities. I will consider this intervention for my study because it discusses reasons why teachers are feeling unprepared. It discusses the 31 essential items, and then it also is noted to the CEC constructs that could be prominent in my own personal study. Next was the Inclusive Teacher Preparation Program. This study explored the correlation between pre-service teachers' sense of efficacy and attitudes towards school diversity in the course of preparation. It asked the question, how do pre-service teachers perceive a sense of efficacy and attitudes towards school diversity shift? And then how do pre-service teachers with different degrees of perceived efficacy view school diversity? 168 teachers are included in this study, and they were mostly female, 19, and white, and it took place at a private university. 4 surveys were administered to all of these participants, including a demographic questionnaire, a teacher efficacy scale, attitudes towards inclusive education scale, and professional and personal beliefs of diversity scale. Overall, the results were positive across all surveys. I will not be considering this survey for my study. I do think that it has a correlation to what I'm researching. However, I'm seeking to provide supports to teachers that I already know have a positive view on inclusive education. And I know this just because of where I work and the culture that I have at the school. This study is helpful, however, in understanding the attitudes and perceptions of inclusion among pre-service teachers who are lacking the proper training to teach students with disabilities in their classroom. And then my third intervention to address my problem of practices is the inclusion of students with special needs in the general education classroom. So Walsh investigated the research question, how do teachers create and maintain successful inclusion classrooms? The purpose was to determine what teaching strategies were effective for teaching students with disabilities. There was 2 participants, elementary school teachers who were observed in their classrooms. It indicated that the teaching strategies that worked successfully were one-on-one work areas, promoting active participation and collaboration among all students, including students with disabilities, having structure and schedule, and collaborating with colleagues. I will not be considering this intervention in my problem in practice due to a lack of diversity in participants. I would have liked to see the study done in more than just 2 elementary school classrooms. If it was done in maybe 2 more high school classes and 2 more middle school classes. And then also, I just felt like 2 was just not enough for it to be good quality results. So I chose the 31 essential standards because it aligns with my research question. So how could informed training assist general educators in developing confidence to create meaningful experiences catered towards students with MSD placed in inclusion in classes? It is focused on secondary content teachers, which is aligned with the age range my study is correlated with, which is high school. And it is also, because the study has also researched what essential standards are effective for teaching students with disabilities, that helps to inform the training that I plan to give the general educators in my building. And then they were also selected by special educators themselves, which I think was really cool. So the CEC standards, the research question was what CEC standards would be essential for preparing content area teachers to effectively teach students with mild disabilities in secondary schools. The participants included members of the CEC who were secondary level parents, teachers, or others who were part of the CEC who have previously or still do taught secondary students with learning needs or exceptional learning needs. And it was a quantitative design approach using a survey to gather participant results. So the method they used was they sent out a survey to all of these members of the CEC who were selected for the study, and they were asked to rank each of the standards from not important, somewhat important, important, very important, and essential. Overall, they were all ranked between important and essential. In fact, 31 of them were considered essential. None of them were considered not important or somewhat important. So that's really awesome. The author hopes that these 31 essential standards can inform a core curriculum for pre-service teachers who are going for like a general education degree or even a special education degree, honestly. Okay, so this study formulated 31 essential standards, like I said, from the CEC that all general educators should acquire before teaching students with disabilities. I actually use some of these standards to inform my training. Some of them were the instructional strategies, methods of modifying the general curriculum, academic accommodations, instructional strategies that encourage active participation, strategies for creating safe, equitable, positive, and supportive learning environments, reinforcement techniques for behavior, and how to collaborate with school personnel. So my research question again is, how could informed training assist general education teachers in developing confidence to create meaningful lessons catered towards students with moderate to severe disabilities placed in inclusion classes? My theory of action is, if I create a training for general education teachers who service students with disabilities, then teachers will grow a sense of confidence and gain valuable knowledge, thus creating a meaningful learning experience for students with moderate to severe disabilities in their inclusion classes. I did this through a non-equivalent comparison group design. So two sets of groups. One was an untreated comparison and one was an experimental. So one was not receiving my training and one was. And then it was quantitative. So I'm measuring the confidence levels of these general education teachers with the before and after a brief training. So I administered the survey to general educators in my building who service students with MSD regarding their confidence teaching students. And then I delivered the training to an experimental group and allowed time to implement the training in their classroom. And then I delivered a post survey to both groups, and then I collected data. So my independent variable was teacher training provided by a special educator, which is myself, that is designed to inform and provide tips and resources to general educators. And then my dependent variable was general educators' confidence and knowledge regarding teaching students with MSD, and then also ensuring that they are creating those meaningful experiences in those inclusion classes. Oftentimes, I feel like whenever my students may go to an inclusion class, they're kind of sitting in the back of the room because they have to be there and not actually getting that meaningful experience that I think that they deserve. And so the general education teachers will demonstrate confidence and instruction of students with MSD by providing access to curriculum on a specially designed level, building relationships, and providing adequate resources. Sorry. So for this survey, I used a Google survey, and I asked teachers to rank themselves on a scale of 1 to 10. I asked for authentic and honest answers. 1 was not confident and 10 was very confident, and there was 10 questions that they had to rank themselves. Here they are. And here is an example of what my survey looked like. So in order to analyze these data, I converted the Google Sheet the Google form into a Google Sheet, and I was able to see the numbers go up in regards to confidence. And then because I was delivering to 2 groups, each group received the same pre and post test, but only one received the training. So success is measured by the growth in confidence. Data was collected as averages. So the project will be successful if teachers' confidence shows growth after the training. I think it's important to realize that teachers teachers' need and desires are more than just a PowerPoint slide presentation. They're going to need more than that just to make them feel confident or feel 100% confident. And so it's not to cure low confidence. It's simply to facilitate form of collaboration and to also address areas of concerns. So here is a few slides from my training that I added into this to show you kind of what it looks like. I think this is the most important slide, but you can read that. So my results, the exciting part. So when comparing the groups that were given the intervention or the training, the data indicated that there was an increase in all confidence rating amongst all teachers, which is really exciting. And then when comparing the 2 groups the group that did not receive the training, it was a consistent rating. It made no change from the pre and post survey. There was some slight change among specific teachers, but overall it did stay the same, which makes sense because they did not receive the training. So here you can see I have graphed the results. This is the teacher, this is the confidence rating, and all of these lines are what questions and how they rated the question. So I went ahead and added the averages at the top of each of them so that you could see specifically the growth specifically. So this was from the pre-survey or the baseline of the treated group. The overall average confidence was a 606, and it grew to a 7.42. And then from the untreated group, the pre-survey or the baseline was a overall confidence of 4.16, And then it stayed the same. However, you can see if I go back and forth, it did slightly change. Um, yeah, but it still stayed the same average confidence. So my major findings, experimental group of teachers for that group, there was an overall increase of 1.36. And then also the highest ranked question was question number 7, which had to do with collaborating with paraprofessionals. And then the control group of teachers who did not receive the training, there was no change in their confidence. However, the question that received the second highest ranking was a question about peer interactions with students with disabilities. So when I look at the data surrounding the experimental group who was given the brief training, you can tell that there was an increase, which is really awesome. So for some teachers who have been teaching for more than 15 years, their rankings didn't change much because they've been doing it for 15 years. And so I felt like their confidence was already fairly high in the pre-survey. But regardless, the training still brought growth in their confidence. Each teacher made their own personal growth. While not always a ton of growth, it is important to understand high confidence requires more than just a PowerPoint presentation. And then also going back to the question that received the highest ranking, which was collaboration with paraprofessionals. This was the highest ranked question amongst all teachers at John Hardin. And it shows that they are receptive to collaboration with staff in the building, and it also highlights the importance of working with a team to effectively teach our students with disabilities. So for the group that did not receive the training, their confidence rating stayed at a 4.16 for their pre and post survey. It stayed consistent because they did not receive the training. However, their question 10 stated facilitating general education peer interactions with students with MSD. This was the second highest ranked question amongst all teachers. And so as a teacher at the school, I personally think that this is due to the culture that the school fosters and the space that we hold for students with disabilities in our school. So obviously I know that this is a biased statement, but I do think that this is the reason why this question was ranked so high is because collaboration between students with and without disabilities is not a foreign concept here. And it also highlights the benefits of peer tutoring in inclusion classes and how it can significantly increase the success of students with disabilities. So when I compare both the intervention from the article, Essential Standards for Preparing Secondary Content Teachers, and then my study, both collaboration amongst staff was ranks the highest on both of our surveys. So this means that there's a positive correlation between teaching students with disabilities and collaboration with staff. So it's clearly a practice that we need to be implementing habitually. It was ranked high among special education teachers in their survey and among general education teachers in my survey. And so this mutual agreement is a step in the right direction towards fostering those meaningful experiences that we're looking for. So what are we trying to accomplish? This PDSA worksheet. So the study was attempting to provide general education teachers with the confidence they need to provide those meaningful experiences for students with MSD. We will know that there's a change in or an improvement when a positive change will be evident, and that is by the increase in teacher confidence. And then what change can we make that will result in the improvement? I personally think a more in-depth training should be provided to general educators who serve as students with severe disabilities. This could be a professional development day, a training, like an all-day training, a seminar, something that they have to really dive deep into more than just a simple presentation that they can read over. Yeah. So I continue to collaborate, my action is to continue to collaborate with general education teachers in my building and work on that growth and confidence. I plan to send monthly input surveys to check in on general educators who are currently servicing my students. This way I can open up discussion more often and continuously monitor my student and my teacher needs. That's important. The teachers also have needs too. And then study the results indicated an increase in the confidence after a brief training was provided to teachers and the consistent lower rating of teachers who did not receive the training. I learned that I need to reach out more to my colleagues and be more intentional about my students in those inclusion classes. And then I also need to reach out to those 5 teachers that did not receive the training to kind of help better their confidence. And then provide all new and upcoming teachers who will service my students with a training or open line of communication at the least. So that is what I plan to do after this class. So after reviewing and analyzing the data from the pre and post survey, the biggest thing for me is collaboration with general education teachers in my building. They need to be more informed. They need to be more designed for not only my students, but for the teachers as well. And I'm going to be able to prioritize their strongest needs when working with those students with MSD in their classroom. So from now on, I am able to utilize my own personal training for those new and upcoming teachers in my building, and I can add to it as I gain more knowledge and experience as a special educator. I'm only a second-year teacher, and so I think that I have more to add to that training as the years go by, and I find out more and I myself learn more. And then I will also continue to have an open and honest collaboration with general educators in my building and help foster meaningful inclusion within our school. The stakeholders that are impacted include the general educators who will hopefully grow some confidence in their skills for providing meaningful experiences. Paraprofessionals who are collaborating with those general educators that will benefit the students they are with in the classes and most likely this collaboration will most likely happen more frequently as a result of the training. Special educators such as myself will be able to service their students better in inclusion classes, and students are receiving a more meaningful education while at school, regardless of their different abilities. The communication with stakeholders happened primarily through email. Some people had follow-up questions that could happen in person or through my classroom phone, but most of it happened through email. And then knowledge of stakeholders was applied to the training I created for them. So I received the results from the pre-survey to inform what I needed to include in my training. If you could tell, like I had 10 questions in my survey, but my training focused on 5 of the essentials, kind of, which is funny. Essentials. So thus I made sure to include that collaboration is not only with the special educators, but also the paraprofessionals in that class with the students. I also know that for my students who are placed in these classes, it is oftentimes not worth it to like to go to these classes and not have any meaning or have any purpose in that classroom. So to be able to combat this with something as simple as a small training, this allows me to ensure the appropriate experience for my students while they're at school, not just in my classes, but in those other classes as well. And I have to be able to help those teachers because I'm the one with the expertise and the knowledge of it, and I have to be able to share it with them as well. And here are my references.